Hey guys, it's Lisa with LisaListen.com, the blog Are You My Cousin? It is Thursday, so it's time for another Facebook Live, and I am excited to be here this afternoon to talk with you about census records and tips for the genealogy researcher when you're diving into those census records, no matter what year you're looking through. So we're going to get into that in a few minutes. I just wanted to give a couple minutes for folks to be able to hop on so you don't miss anything exciting. I do have something exciting I did want to share with you guys. So I am slowly in the process of getting the Facebook Live videos up onto my YouTube channel. Now, anytime should you miss a Facebook Live or just want to go back and listen again, you can absolutely find it under the video tabs on the Facebook page. But I have been hearing from some folks, and I certainly understand this, who have gotten off of Facebook, who are no longer wanting to be on Facebook. And so I wanted to find another way for them to also be able to access the videos. So I'm actually, when the videos are done, and once they're on Facebook, I am then uploading them over to my YouTube channel. So it is a slow process as I go back and try to get the ones I've done in the past. So if you have friends who prefer not to watch on Facebook and who prefer to see it on the YouTube channel, absolutely perfectly fine. I just wanted to give another option. Who knows, one day maybe I'll do YouTube Lives. Haven't quite gotten there yet, but I might be doing that soon. All right, so I am so excited that you guys are here. Hey, Cheryl's from Cincinnati, yay. Perfect, thank you, Cheryl, for letting me know where you're from and giving me a hello. That lets me know that you can hear me and see me and that my technology is working well. Last week we had a few glitches with it, so thank you for letting me know. All right, guys, it is May. I cannot believe it's already May, guys. So for our first Facebook Live this month, I really wanted to talk with you about census records. Now, if you are new to genealogy research or still in that beginning phase, you are absolutely in the right place. If you have been researching for a while, you are still absolutely in the right place, because I think as researchers, as we progress, sometimes we forget some of the basics, or it's just a good idea to review the basics that we knew. Now, as we talk about the tips, please, if you guys have a favorite census record tip that you want to share with others, or a particular success or frustration you're having when you search the census records, please leave me a comment. I will be monitoring those as we go through, and I would be happy to share that tip with the rest of the group, or if maybe we can brainstorm a couple ideas as well. So, hey, Sue, Sue's from Ohio. So we've got an Ohio crowd today, huh? So wonderful. Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to be talking about, I'm going to give you 6 different tips for researching in census records. And some you'll probably know about, some you may not know about. So let's dive in with that. I think as a researcher, as a genealogy researcher, it doesn't take long for you to move through your census record research and actually come up to a point where you really have lost your ancestor in that record. Anybody else lost an ancestor in the census records? I sure have, absolutely. So a lot of these tips are tips that I had to learn kind of by the seat of my pants to find the rest of my ancestors. One of the biggest things that I always like to recommend is that you do not use an exact search for your ancestor's surname. So when you are plugging in that ancestor's name in the ancestry.com or Find My Past, sometimes it will give you that button that'll say, look for that exact term or spelling. And I typically do not use that. I usually unclick that or leave it unclicked, because as we know, spelling was not really standardized until well into the 1900s. So it could be a free-for-all out there when it comes to spelling. Also, transcription mistakes happen. So a word might be spelled correctly, but if the handwriting was not so hot, then the transcriber mistranscribed it, and so it could come up differently. So don't use that exact thing. Now, kind of along with that, I would recommend, if you're having trouble, using a wildcard search. I don't know how many folks have done this. I didn't do this for a long time, but I've been having some successes using the wildcard searches. Now, what that is I'm going to use the example in ancestry.com. If you're researching the name and you sort of know how it's spelled, maybe you're really sure of the first part of it, but you're not necessarily sure about the last part. Pick my ancestor's name that I researched, the Harwood family, Harward. But there are also some other spellings toward that, Harwood. And there's some other transcribed errors out there, I can assure you. I can be fairly sure of the HAR, so I might put HAR and then use the asterisk sign, or HARW and then use the asterisk sign. What that does is it tells the search engine on Ancestry to look for anything matching my parameters starting with HARW, and then it will give me the variety of names that, that comes after that for the letters, as long as the other that kind of closely match those other parameters. Maybe I've put in such as a first name or a birth date, that kind of thing, a location. So sometimes that's a way that when you get a lot of results that way, sometimes you can get a lot of results and you need to wade through those. It's not a fast search, but take your time to weed through those search results for that wildcard search, and you can find other spellings maybe you weren't familiar with, and maybe just be able to find your ancestor right off the bat that way. So try that and see if that will help. Again, wildcard searches, I can do them pretty much, you can do those on any platform that you're using. Just know that you're liable to get pretty wide results, and if you can narrow them down as much as you can. So maybe you use the first 3 letters of the name, or maybe you use the first 4 or 5 letters of the name as much as you know, so you can kind of narrow that down. But here's a tip, guys. Maybe you know that that surname begins with HA, then you know that it's going to end in a D. Maybe it's HAR and it ends in a D, but you don't really know how it's going to be spelled in the middle. You can use an asterisk in the middle of that surname for the search. In other words, you could do HA asterisk RD and get whatever that middle part's going to be. What that asterisk is telling the search engine, what it's telling that search engine for Google is, you don't know. It's whatever combination it thinks best, because you know kind of the first part, you know the second part. You've put the letters in that you know, but it's going to tell you the letters. It's going to give the search engine some leeway on those letters that you're not as familiar with. So, okay, hang on, let me check my comments. I see things flying around. Hey, Jillian from England. Wow, yay, hey, welcome. So glad you could join us. Excellent. So that would be my recommendation there. Don't get locked into a name spelling, as we all know, but utilize those wildcard searches, because those are going to be very helpful as you go. Okay, search in alternate locations. Now, we may think we know where our ancestor lives, right? Okay, maybe not always, guys. If your ancestor lived on a border, kind of close to a county or a state line, check those border areas to see where, if you're not finding them in the certain county you think they are, check the neighboring county. Again, know your county boundaries, so know the history of that county. I have an ancestor who lived in Orange County, Chatham County, and Wake County. And the fact of the matter is, they never, ever moved, because ultimately, Wake County was formed out of Orange County, North Carolina. So was Chatham County. Now, not only did they live in Wake County when it was formed from Orange County, because they lived so close to the border, occasionally they slipped into those Chatham County records as well. So just be familiar with, as much as you can, where they live, so you can check those different borders that might have been changing during your ancestor's time. Again, it's important to know the history of the location where your ancestor lived. Okay, here's one that threw me for a while, guys. Verify that the record, that census record that you're researching, actually exists or survived. Now, we are all very familiar with the destruction of the 1890 census here in the US. We often refer to it as the genealogical black hole when it comes to census research. It is definitely a time period where it's very difficult to research your ancestors when you really have lost so much vital information that would have easily been found in a census record. But all is not lost in 1890. And as you guys know, if you've been on the website much, or if you're new, let me tell you that Devin from Family History Fanatics and I have done an 8-part video series on researching around the loss of the 1890 census. I will be happy to pop that in the comments let's see, can I pop it in the comments from here? I'm not sure I can. Oh, I can. Let me just pop it in the comments right now. So you guys can look at that in your free time. So what I've done is I've put in the link to the very first one that we did, and then from there you can follow it through. So if you're struggling with the 1890 census, you can try it there. What's going on here? Hang on. Excuse me, my phone's ringing. I turned it off. There we go. Take care of it. Sorry about that, guys. I thought I had left it downstairs. Okay, so making sure that it actually exists. So here's what I ran into. I was researching ancestors, as you guys know, frequently in South Central Virginia, in Halifax County, Virginia, to be exact. And I have a lot of ancestors to research up there. And so as I tried to track them through, I often got stuck around 1810 and 1800. I was really struggling to find my ancestors and really couldn't find them in their census records. I'm like, what in the world? Were they just hiding, I don't know, back in a cave somewhere? Why were they never on the census records? Why are they never showing up? And so I kept looking, and I've researched many ancestors in this area. Well, I don't really want to tell you how long I've been researching before I discovered that the 1810 census for Halifax County actually did not survive. So I just wasted a lot of time researching for a census record, ancestors in a census record that never existed. I assumed they weren't showing up. That was a bad assumption on my part. I should have picked up on the fact that when I can't find such a large number of people in 1810 in a census record, they're not showing up in my search results. Maybe I need to research that census record itself and find out what's going on. And that's exactly what had happened, is that unfortunately, that particular census record did not survive for that area. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know why it's not there, but it is known that it didn't survive. So then I ended up having to use, obviously, other ways to research. So just if you're struggling with that, don't always assume it's your ancestor's fault. It could be something in the record that's unique to that record set. So be sure and check that out. So please learn from my mistake and don't waste as much time as I did on that. Okay, guys, search for the neighbors. So sometimes finding our ancestors can be hard. And we track them through, but we might lose them. Maybe they have an unusual name. Maybe they have an unusual name that was just very, very hard to read. Maybe it wasn't obviously transcribed correctly, but you're pretty sure they stayed in that same area. Or you've been researching your ancestor and you kind of know, hey, they always seem to appear in the same records that Daniel Richardson family appeared in. They always seem to have, the family's intermarried and they always seemed to be witnessing each other's deeds and stuff. But for some reason, at this point in time, I can't find this particular family on the census record. Research the next door neighbor. So if maybe they always seem to frequently interact with the Daniel Richardson family, research Daniel Richardson in the census record and see if you can find him. Once you find him, start looking around on that census page and determine, oh, yes, maybe you did find your ancestor living 2 doors down, but the name was misspelled, or I hate to say misspelled, but poorly written, so it was difficult to transcribe. Maybe they put down the wrong name. I've actually seen that happen where they used an incorrect name for the family. So use that neighbor and see where they went. If you lose them in, maybe the whole group, the group of neighbors and friends left an area, and it's obvious that they're gone, but you can't find your ancestor in the next census, in that census record in a new location. Research the neighbor. Can you find them in a new location in the census record? If so, start looking through those census pages for your ancestor. Now, here's kind of a tip within a tip. When you're researching the neighbor and trying to find your ancestor based on where the neighbor moved or where the neighbor lived, a known associate lived, don't just look on that one page. So maybe you find the neighbor. Don't just look on that one page. Look, I'll be honest, I'll go 5 pages forwards and 5 pages back, and I'll read all the entries if I'm looking for somebody, just to make sure I'm capturing everybody. Typically, it's going to be within a page, either way. The reason I say that is when the census record went down the road, let's see if I can do this with my left hand. So he went down the road and maybe he stopped at this house here. And he's like, okay, gets the information. Well, the next house next door might be a mile down the road. Or he can cross the road and zigzag over to this family over here across the street because they're a lot closer and get that information. And maybe he gets the two over there and then he crosses back. And then maybe there's a side road he goes down. My point being, he didn't go in the exact order always. He did it to try to be the most efficient with his time. So that's why you may say, oh, my ancestor's neighbor was so-and-so. Maybe he was the next door neighbor, but maybe on the next census record, he doesn't appear next door or next to him in line. So that might be just a helpful tip. Make sure you're going forward and backwards on those census records to capture everybody that way. Okay. If you are researching a female ancestor, make sure you're researching her under the correct name, guys. Make sure, if she's in her father's household and she's not married, she is likely to be under that maiden name. When she marries, she's going to be under her married name in that census record. What if she married more than once? Okay, so if you understand what name she would have been going by within that particular census year, that's the one you want to search for. And remember, she could have been married more than once. Okay, guys, my last tip for this one is to read the census record line by line. Okay, now what do I mean by that? I don't mean the whole census. If you know that your ancestors lived in a certain area, and you're pretty confident based on the other records that you found, maybe you have deeds, maybe you have wills, that this family lived in this particular district or this particular county. Sometimes, if you're really struggling, you're going to need to read that census record line by line. So let me give you an example. I was desperately trying to search for one of my ancestors in the Haley family, Jesse Haley, not Jesse Haley, William Haley and his father, and finding out who his father was. But I could not find William Haley in the census record in 1862 or 1852 saved my life. 1860, excuse me. And I know he was a child. He should have been in his father's household. Now, there were a lot of things that were kind of going on with this particular family. But for this particular census record, I noticed that the census taker used a lot of initials, first initials, middle initials, and surnames. So I was having a really hard time in an area where there were a ton of Haleys finding my particular William Haley. Again, a very common name. So I really struggled with that. But I knew that they were there. I had evidence that they were there in the family, and I needed to know which household he was living in, who his father was. So I took that particular Halifax County census record, and I think I ended up having to go through 2 districts worth of records, and I read it line by line by line. And let me tell you, I found him. I found the whole family, and I did the genealogy happy dance. I was able to identify the father and get a lot more information. I could not do that when I was trying to just use the search engine. I had to read it line by line. Now, was reading line by line a waste of time? No, in this case, because I found the answer. But what about when I didn't find the answer? There have been cases where I've had to read it line by line and I didn't find what I was looking for. It was never a waste of time because in that instance, you're learning a lot about the community. You're learning who lived in that community. As you're reading those line by line, you're learning the common surnames. You're learning who tended to live close together, what clusters of people lived together, who tended to associate with whom. You can also, as you're reading those line by line, if you glance over, you can actually, or glance over to the right, you can actually determine who were the large landowners at times, depending on what their census record is asked. It is never a waste of time when you read a record that turns out to be a negative evidence or doesn't have your ancestor in it, because you are learning about that community. So the next time you're researching that ancestor, you might recognize a community, and as you're reading the records and go, oh, I recognize this community. I never found evidence that my ancestor was in this particular community. Again, in the district when I was reading and found my ancestor and found my William Haley, I was actually able to, the next time, get into records recognize who those neighbors were, who those associates were, and very quickly identify, oh, wow, I need to pay attention to this particular set of records, this particular census district, because I recognize the people as part of my ancestors' community. I got into tax records. So I was going through tax records and realized very quickly, wow, based on that census research, based on having read the entire census for that district, I knew I was in the right place for the tax. As I got into tax records, I was like, whoa, yes, I'm seeing all these same names that were living close to him. I know that I'm close. So that's one of my tips. It is a slow process. It can be a tedious process. This was not something I did very quick. It took me a couple of nights sometimes or longer to get through those, depending on my time, but well worth the effort. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap up here shortly. So if you have questions, if you have tips you want to share in the comments, please do. I would love to share them with everyone. So anyway, so while you guys think about that, I just want to encourage you, when you are researching in the census record, when your ancestor is lost, you do have some options of things that you can do. As we said, we can go back through the tips where, you want to, don't use that exact tip, don't use the exact spelling that you were using. Make sure you're searching in all possible locations. Use any alternate locations that you might have. Make sure that record survived, not just that 1890 census that they got lost. Make sure the record survived. Search for the neighbors. Be sure you're searching for the neighbors, and when you're tracking female ancestors, that you are tracking with using the correct name that she would have been using at that time. And of course, the last one, the most tedious one, and actually one of my favorite ones, is reading it line by line, because you do learn so much about the ancestors and their communities. And it's those communities. When you understand the community, you can really start to open up more avenues of research for your ancestor. So that would be my tips for the day on that. Let me just check the Facebook group. Everybody looks like we're doing okay over there. Perfect. So lots of exciting things. As I said, if you joined me late, I am starting to put the replays of the Facebook Lives on my YouTube channel. So I will be doing that a little bit later. Oh, hey, Norma. Norma's just down the road in Garner. Hello, hello. And Norma and I are having a beautiful day here in North Carolina. So I hope everybody else is too. May is just such a gorgeous month here in North Carolina. Also, guys, I put it in the newsletter this week. If you haven't, I still have spots available for the for genealogy consults at a reduced price. I am kind of celebrating everything this May. It's one of my favorite times of the year. We've got Mother's Day coming up. It's graduation season. Somebody in my household is graduating this month. I am really rocking all the goals that I have in my occupational therapy for my thumb rehab. So guys, you see, it's getting better. I still wear the splint, but I can now type with all 10 fingers. So I am just really excited. And so I wanted to celebrate with you guys. So I am offering 60-minute genealogy consults with me. I have 10 spots in the month of May and 10 in the month of June at a reduced cost for $30. So if you are interested in that, feel free to hop over to the page on the website. I'm going to give you a link below, and you are welcome to sign up for one of those, because I would love to help you guys out. I love talking with people and consulting on your genealogy research issues. All right, let me make sure, check these comments, make sure I'm not missing anybody else. Oh, thanks, Norma. She said congratulations. Yes. All right, guys. There we go. That's really all I have for you today. Feel free to share this video or the broadcast with anybody on Facebook if you'd like to. Certainly point them to the YouTube channel. I will have this up on YouTube a little bit later today. I am working backwards, so I will eventually have those done as well. That's my goal, is to get them all done, guys. It just takes a little bit of time. Hey, Tony is it Brownfield, Texas? Wonderful. Oh, sure, you're interested. Absolutely. Feel free to click through, and I would love to talk with you about that. So about your genealogy needs. So, all right, guys, I will continue to monitor the comments as we go along. So if you're watching this on replay, please feel free to leave a comment. I will absolutely get back with you there. Or if you think of something you want to add at a later time, feel free to go ahead and pop those comments in there. I'll be happy to to follow up with you guys. All right, guys. Oh, Norma said, would love to learn how cousins can be from 3 different families. That would be a really great Facebook Live. Be from 3. Yes, Norma, we need to talk about that. Maybe that would be a good Facebook Live issue. And I would love to. The short answer would be to look at if you Google cousin charts, that can give you some really great information on how to, like if somebody's a first cousin or they a third cousin, or where your common ancestor was, how you would be labeled, or how your cousin mix would be. So you might try that, but yeah, absolutely, that's a great idea. I'm going to make a note of that so we can maybe do that. Hey, Faye. Oh, don't worry about being late. I totally get that. So absolutely, Faye. Some people, the replay will be available here in Facebook, as well as I'm going to be getting it up on YouTube. So we can do it. Wonderful. Yay. Okay, guys, I will talk with you guys not next week. Watch, because I'll probably do it on a different day next week. So as I said, it's graduation season, so I'm going to be attending a graduation next week. So let me get back with you. Watch the newsletter, watch the Facebook group, but we will have another Facebook Live, obviously, and we will get going on that. Oh, Norma says she has all 3 first cousins. Oh, wow, cool. All right, absolutely. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.